Hello everyone and welcome to my channel, The Opinionated Science Educator. Now I haven't made a video for a while and I'm busy putting together a digital portfolio for the end of my probation. Okay, so this is the previous WITS learning management system, Sakai. It had a profile for you to do, and then it would also it gave you all, in terms of your workspace, all the courses that you were involved in teaching and that you could access. Now, I left with this in place. When I came back, suddenly a new system. I didn't know that this was still accessible and available, and fortunately, it is. So yeah, here's the workspace as it was created, and you can see there it lists the courses that I taught, but I specifically want to focus on the physical science for the NS2 or the natural science content area. Sakai was very basic. It allowed you to make announcements to students. It allowed you to upload resources for them. More importantly, it allowed students access to the assignment tab so that they could submit assignments and so on, and you could do online testing. But there was also a feature called lessons, and I used that feature already in 2018 and 2019 to get learners to engage with, whether it was videos or reading the textbook, so that when they came to the lecture, they weren't being bombarded with all this new science. Because many of them actually had not done physical science at school, and now they wanted to teach biology, but they also had to do natural science then as their GET subject. So a lot of them were disadvantaged by not having physical science. Okay, now I started the site with and this was from the course outline, just the purpose of the course: to develop their knowledge and skills and competencies to develop positive attitudes towards science. And I listed there the skills, and that the course content was focusing on force and motion. Okay, not just motion, because motion is the result of a force acting on an object, and that is the reason I took out rotational mechanics and included force and dynamics and Newton's laws. And then I also included for them, so they could see where this would fit in, the aspects of where the physics would be needed as their content knowledge area to explain concepts of motion. And then I also gave them the outcomes for the week. So outcomes for week 1. This is what they should be able to do. So students could actually go and check off whether they could do those things. So yes. Now, the first lecture focused on the nature of science and the mathematics in science. So I included here, started off nature of science, told them where they would find the information in the textbook, and I gave them questions to guide their reading. Then there was an assessment there to ensure that they'd done it. So I listed there the things that they needed to be able to do. Then they also needed to, if they read the next section, to define what a model was, a law, and a theory. And I gave them a little bit of information about how a myth in science and how laws and theories were related. Then we looked at measurement. The next one was on measurement and significant figures. Now, significant figures is often difficult for students to understand. And so what I did was, and I think I used the Khan Academy videos. I included links to Khan Academy videos to explain significant figures. So if students needed to, they could go through the videos. You can see, this is taking a bit of time to load, but yeah, the videos were there. So this is the Google Classroom, and yes, I think this might be, yes, this is from Khan Academy. So there was a video for them So yeah, students were given access to these resources if they needed additional support. From there, I think then went on to looking at students provided comments about significant figures, but yeah, it was to get them engaged with significant figures and understanding significant figures. So there were videos about the rules and so on. Then we looked at the standard units, because having marked matric papers, one of the things where students lose marks is by forgetting units. So again, I gave them a number of videos for them to watch to explain the importance of using the correct units and so on. So I spent a lot of time, and at the end I will show you the hours that I spent. Now, as a sessional staff member at the time, I think we were paid 1.5 for every hour we taught. We were expected to do like 1.5, or maybe it was 2. I can't remember. I'd have to look at the contract, but hours in preparation, and I did significantly more than that. Okay, so there's videos on converting units. So yeah, students can get the help they need before the lecture. So and then we looked at the maths and physics. So again, access to videos so that they could, if their maths was weak, they had this additional support. And I think the lecture ended excuse me. Okay, so the lecture ended by providing a strategy for solving physics problems. So yeah, as I said, a lot of time was put in to develop these pre-lesson or pre-lecture resources, because all of this was covered in the first week of lecture. So that was a double session on a Monday morning and a single session on Tuesday, and then there was a TUT, and finally a prac. So yeah, now looking down there, you can see I included then the other lessons based on what was included in the course content. So I ended this section with dimensional analysis, because this helps students understand where units come from and so on. So I thought it was important for them, if they read through the material beforehand, then they could come with questions. If they went through the textbook, watched videos, it might help kind of focus them a little bit. And then, to my horror, I discovered that, and this was really early on, that none of them had gone through the pre-lecture material, which included the video from NASA with, I think it's a 10-kilogram bowling ball and 10 kilograms of feathers, dropped at the same time in an old silo where the air had been sucked out, and that they reached the ground at the same time, to show that the acceleration, both objects, doesn't matter what they are, will accelerate at the same rate. So based on that lack of engagement, I told them that before every lecture I would create a short quiz or some kind of task for them to do, and that would be an indication that they'd gone through the material. So after 3 weeks of them really, it was a lot of work, firstly from my side, because I had to create these quizzes daily, and then the students were also overwhelmed and were like getting more and more restless, and then the class rep came to me and said, I have to do something, I have to talk to them. So now that, okay, they hadn't engaged, I put something in place to get them to engage. They started engaging, they realized the importance of engaging. So we negotiated, and instead of the tasks being due for every lecture, before every lecture, we came to an agreement, and that agreement was through consensus and through negotiation, Unfortunately, many people at the university think that the students are unreasonable. You have to fear them at all costs. You don't negotiate with them. Whatever they want, you do. But I knew that if they went through the physics information beforehand, it would actually help them with the materials, and it would help them with physics. Now, here's the assignment, or how assignments worked on Sakai. Students had access to this assignments list, or to assignments, and the assignments included the practical reports, a take-home test, and then I gave them short assignments taking questions from the matric paper so that they could learn to problem solve with each tutorial. So that was the list of the assignments. The students had access to this. And yeah, unfortunately, this feature has created huge problems with Canvas, in that students think they have to have access to the assignments tab. Whereas if you create modules, the assignment is worked into the learning pathway. So yeah, and then there were also like assessments that I included for them to gauge their interaction, and tests and quizzes, and there were practice quizzes. So yeah, that is the amount of work that I put into the physics NS2 when I was teaching it. Now, at the end of 2019, Charmaine Voter, who was in the exams office at the time, I don't know, I think I went up to her to get or to give in my moderation report, and she said, I don't know what I did, but for the first time, or she said, I don't know what you did, but for the first time in 10 years, and that was a slight at her, my predecessor, or the man I was filling in for as a sessional staff member, says, for the first time in 10 years, the physics marks were better than the chemistry marks. And I mean, being someone who failed physics twice and then deciding I would not let physics kind of overwhelm me, make me worried, I did it through uni, so I got a distinction. But the only difference between my undergrad degree and now when I was working as a teacher was that I realized I needed to make the time, I needed to do all the activities, I needed to do the assignments, I needed to work through problems. And that's all that physics requires. It's not difficult once you understand the concepts. So that's why I wanted the students to read and do and go online and see some other physics sites to help explain the concepts better. So yeah, I think that was my first use of blended learning. At the time I didn't know it was blended learning, but yeah, because the students in a sense were forced to engage, those that had, and they did it for like a 2.5% addition to their course marks. It was a very small percentage. And when I asked them, they said, well, every mark counts. So they really are marks driven, which was sad that they weren't engaging for the experience of learning and learning better, but they were driven by that extra 2.5%. But yeah, as I said, the lady in the exams office, Charmaine Voter, said that for the first time in 10 years, the physics marks were better than the chemistry marks, solely because the students had to engage with the materials beforehand. Then they came to lectures. It helped clarify their understanding, and then all the many little activities forced them to practice. So yeah, I will end with a little bit of stats. That shows the number of hours that I spent in 2018, 97, 96, 57 hours in preparing this site. And according to my contract, I think we paid 1.5 times preparation for every hour that we taught. So I definitely went way above and beyond what was required of me. And yeah, because it was important for me that the students engage with the pre-lesson material so that they could do better at physics. And that is exactly what happened. So to all my detractors, please, can you explain this? Might not have had the best year last year, but I'm sure this shows the amount of commitment that I'm prepared to put into my students. You can see that I was the person who spent most time, and the students, there were still 46 students that never accessed the site at all. But generally, students were beginning to access the site. So yeah, thanks for watching, and until next time, this is the Opinionated Science Educator.